Kai stood there waiting, eyes fixed on Liwei, the weight of anticipation tightening the air between them. He leaned in slightly, silently urging Liwei to speak, wondering whether he would finally say what had brought such seriousness to his face or remain locked in silence. Just as Liwei parted his lips, May and James's little boy ran up and grabbed Liwei's hand, tugging insistently and announcing that he was hungry. The sudden interruption shattered the heavy moment hanging between the two men. Kai glanced at the little boy and broke into a laugh before turning his teasing gaze toward Liwei, as though amused by how abruptly the tension had disappeared. His expression lightened into playful mockery as he gestured toward the child, suggesting that Liwei's son was hungry and that he should go prepare food for him. Liwei's eyes narrowed slightly as he corrected him, stating that he did not have a son. He shifted his attention to the small boy and asked where Amara was. The child responded that she was sleeping. Liwei lifted the boy into his arms with practiced ease, telling him they were going home and that he would get him something to eat once they arrived. With the boy resting against him, he walked away. Behind him, Kai called out, asking whether he wasn't going to finish what he had been about to say. Liwei only responded that he would tell him next time, continuing his path toward the house. Kai remained standing there, the unanswered question lingering heavily. He replayed Liwei's expression, noticing just how serious he had looked. A small knot formed in his chest, though he brushed it off, hoping it was nothing grave. Meanwhile, in a distant part of the city, Fang entered a mysterious building guarded on all sides. Without a word, the guards placed a blindfold over his eyes and guided him down a long corridor. When they finally stopped, they pushed him gently into a chair and removed the blindfold. As his vision adjusted, he looked around, anticipation buzzing through his veins. This was the moment he had waited for, the moment to meet the powerful figure who once worked beside his father, the man he hoped would help him reclaim what he believed was rightfully his. The masked man entered the room, his presence swallowing the air with an overwhelming sense of authority. He took a seat across from Fang, the atmosphere turning sharp and cold. Fang immediately rose and dropped to his knees, expressing how honored he was to finally meet him and how ready he was to continue the path his father had left behind. He emphasized that, as the eldest son, he was prepared to maintain the relationship and connection that once existed between his father and the mastermind. The masked man studied him with quiet scrutiny, unimpressed by the flattery. His tone cut through the room as he instructed Fang to get to the point. He had no patience for pretense or exaggerated praise. With bitterness threading through his voice, Fang confessed his true desire. He wanted Liwei eliminated. He wanted Eastgate Group back in his hands. A cold, mocking laugh escaped the mastermind. He leaned forward, asking whether Fang truly believed he was ready to take down someone like Liwei. He questioned if Fang understood what Liwei was capable of, how many had died because of him, and how dangerous he truly was. Fang's voice trembled as he insisted that he did not care. His determination burned through every word. He would do whatever he was instructed, as long as it removed Liwei from the picture. The mastermind leaned back, observing him carefully, weighing his sincerity. He asked Fang what consequence he should face if he failed. Fang's voice steadied as he stated firmly that he would not fail. His hatred for Liwei ran too deep, too strong, to allow failure. At that, the mastermind snapped his fingers. A guard stepped forward carrying a sniper rifle. The weapon was placed into Fang's hands, his fingers trembling as the cold metal settled against his skin. The mastermind watched him with a pointed, silent challenge. When Fang hesitated, the mastermind reminded him of how confident he had sounded moments ago, questioning why a single gun made him falter. Fang inhaled shakily before gathering his courage, lifting his chin and declaring that he would do it, that he would bring Liwei's head to him. The mastermind gave a quiet, humorless chuckle and signaled the guards to remove him. The blindfold returned over Fang's eyes, and he was escorted out into the shadows. The following morning, sunlight spilled softly across the bedroom as Amara stood at the dresser getting ready for school. Her phone chimed, and she reached for it immediately. It was a message from Momo explaining that Liwei had helped her with her tuition. A smile touched Amara's lips as she stared at the screen. The moment Liwei stepped out of the bathroom, she rushed toward him, wrapping her arms around him and thanking him for helping Momo. Liwei brushed his hand gently against her cheek, reminding her of what he had always said. Her friends were his friends too. Amara's smile lingered as she grabbed her phone again, telling him she needed to cancel her photo shoot gig since the money was no longer necessary. Before she could call, Liwei stopped her. He told her it was fine, saying it seemed like she enjoyed doing it and that she should finish what she started. Amara froze slightly, surprised at his shift in attitude, questioning if he was sure. Liwei nodded confidently. He glanced at his watch, noting the time. He said he would drop off May and James's son at his preschool before heading out. He kissed her forehead and walked out the door, leaving Amara standing in the quiet room, puzzled by his sudden change of heart, wondering why the one thing he had once firmly opposed was now something he accepted so easily. Meanwhile, Ming stood inside May and James's daughter's hospital room, the quiet beeping of machines echoing against the sterile walls as he monitored her condition. His eyes moved between the monitors and his notes, checking if his method of saving her heart was showing even the slightest sign of progress. After a moment, he shook his head faintly, disappointment threading through his expression. He turned toward the nurse standing beside him and asked how the patient had been responding. The nurse, her voice weighed down with hopelessness, explained that there had been no response at all, that they had been monitoring her day and night, but nothing had improved. Ming glanced back at the unconscious girl, his eyes heavy with worry, then instructed the nurse to continue monitoring her closely. He told her that if there was any change, any movement, any shift at all, she should inform him immediately. With that, he stepped out of the room and made his way down the quiet hallway toward his office. As soon as he pushed open the door, he froze mid-step. Momo was standing inside, waiting for him. His heart jolted, beating faster as he approached her. Standing before her, he asked if she was all right, if she had come for a consultation. Momo's expression was serious as she reached into her handbag and pulled out his wallet, handing it to him. She stated that she didn't want to keep anything that belonged to him anymore. Ming accepted the wallet, staring at it for a moment. Momo told him that was all she came for and turned to walk away. But Ming reached out and grabbed her hand, holding it tightly. Momo remained still, her eyes avoiding his as she asked him what else he wanted. Ming's voice dropped with sincerity as he told her he was sorry, that he knew he had hurt her with the words he had said, and that it had never been his intention. Momo slowly turned toward him, telling him it was fine, that he had only said what he truly felt, and that he shouldn't apologize for his own emotions. She added that she was glad to finally know she would never have a place in his heart. Ming stepped closer, his eyes glistening with emotion he didn't fully understand. He told her it wasn't like that lately he couldn't make sense of his feelings at all. He confessed that he had believed he felt nothing for her, but recently he had been thinking about her, missing her. Momo lifted her gaze, meeting the sincerity in his eyes. She knew she shouldn't allow herself to be moved. He was a red flag, painfully obvious. Yet the pull toward him was something she couldn't fight. Finally, she asked about Yan. She asked how he could say these things to her when Yan was the one he seemed to hold dearly in his heart. Ming, still holding her hand, explained that he didn't understand his emotions anymore. He said he had thought he loved Yan, that she was the only one for him. But ever since Momo entered his life, everything had become confusing. He moved even closer, asking if she would be willing to go on a date with him. He admitted he had never given her a real chance, not truly, and that he wanted to change that. Momo hesitated, uncertainty flickering across her face. Ming kept his gaze locked on her, gently pleading, promising he wouldn't disappoint her again, and that he only wanted this one chance. Momo finally gave in and nodded, telling him she would let him know when she was ready. Then she walked out of the office, her mind tangled in doubt, unsure whether giving him another chance was a mistake, knowing that the girl he truly loved wasn't her. It was someone else. Meanwhile, Liwei sat in his office, staring at his cell phone. He read the message from the mastermind again and again, the request for a meeting. His jaw tightened. He had never wanted Amara involved, never wanted her anywhere near danger, but now he saw no other option. If using her as bait was the only way to end everything once and for all, he would take the risk. He reached for his work telephone and called his assistant, telling him to come to his office. Within minutes, the man arrived, standing before him and asking if he needed anything. Liwei, his eyes sharp with conviction, instructed him to prepare for a press conference. He added that he was ready to address the press about his relationship status. His assistant's eyes widened in shock. He asked if Liwei was serious, if he was truly going to do it. Liwei nodded, explaining that he was tired of having no privacy because of the paparazzi constantly following him. Energized by the news, his assistant promised to arrange everything immediately and make sure the event went smoothly before rushing out of the office, almost thrilled that Liwei had finally agreed to something he had always pushed him to do. Meanwhile, Fang sat alone in his own office. Slowly, he opened his drawer and pulled out the sniper gun the mastermind had given him. He ran his fingers along the cold metal, thinking about how this was his one chance, his only chance, to eliminate Liwei and reclaim what he believed was rightfully his. He needed the perfect opportunity. The door suddenly opened. Fang quickly hid the gun and straightened in his chair. Kai stepped inside, moving closer, asking why Fang had barely spoken to him since the reading of the will. Kai told him he understood his disappointment, that their father hadn't chosen him as the successor, but reminded him that just because he became the successor didn't mean he was going to abandon him. He insisted that they could work together, use their father's assets and money to build something great for their family, an empire for future generations. He said that instead of fighting Liwei over East Gate Group, they could build their own legacy, especially since Liwei had even offered to help them. Hearing Liwei's name, Fang snapped. He asked Kai if Liwei was the one feeding him such ideas. He insisted that while Liwei had been away, it was their father who built Eastgate Group into what it was, only for Liwei to return and claim it. Kai let out a half-laugh, asking if Fang even heard himself, reminding him that it was Liwei's father who built the company from nothing. He warned Fang that his stubbornness would only bring trouble and told him not to cause problems during the press conference Liwei was holding. At that, Fang sat up sharply and asked if the press conference was happening today. Kai nodded, telling him not to say any of the nonsense he had just said. With that, Kai walked out. Left alone, Fang slowly pulled out the gun again, staring at it. The press conference, a public event, an open stage, a clear line of sight. It was the perfect opportunity. He just needed to be ready. Amara and Momo stepped into East Gate Group, the polished marble floors and towering glass walls reflecting their silhouettes as they moved through the lobby. Momo leaned closer to her, whispering that she still couldn't believe Liwei had let Amara do this, adding that it seemed like the two of them were finally back on good terms. Amara's cheeks warmed as she glanced at the lunchbox in her hands, admitting softly that she needed to find Liwei and give him his lunch. Momo nodded, reminding her not to be seen, and Amara hurried off. She slipped into the elevator and found Suri already inside. Amara offered a polite greeting. Suri gave a small nod, her expression unreadable. Silence pooled between them as the elevator rose. When Suri's eyes drifted to the lunchbox, she casually asked if Amara was delivering lunch for her boyfriend. Amara nodded with a small smile, and Suri remarked that she was a good girlfriend, and that her boyfriend must be lucky. Curiosity flickered through her as she asked which department he worked in. Amara hesitated, and Suri quickly apologized for prying, saying she understood if Amara didn't want to share. The elevator doors finally slid open, and Suri stepped out, leaving Amara alone as the lift continued upward. When the doors reopened again, Amara stepped out and made her way toward liwei's office. She paused at the doorway, watching him and his assistant deep in preparation for the upcoming press conference. The moment the assistant spotted her, he ushered her inside. Amara walked to his desk and set the lunchbox before him, telling him she had brought food. Liwei, still studying a document, nodded without looking up. Amara stayed beside him, insisting she wouldn't leave until he ate, reminding him he couldn't keep overworking himself without a meal. His eyes remained fixed on the paper until she abruptly took it from his hands. His gaze lifted to hers, but before he could say anything, she told him to take a bite. A quiet smile curved his lips as he relented, asking if she had made the meal herself. Amara nodded, explaining that she had gone back home to prepare something for him before coming. A softer smile formed as he opened the lunchbox. He told her it smelled good, his gaze staying on her as he added that he would eat only if she fed him. Amara flushed, unsure, but he pulled her gently onto his lap, whispering that he loved it when she cared for him. She agreed, lifting a spoonful to his lips as he watched her with a calm, content expression. The assistant stood nearby, watching them with an amused smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Eventually he commented that he had never seen this side of liwei before, that he didn't know he could be so gentle. Liwei shot him a sharp look, asking if he planned to stand there and observe a private moment between him and his woman. The assistant laughed awkwardly, promising to leave and advising liwei to take his time. As he exited, he nearly collided with Suri, who was approaching the door. Suri attempted to enter, insisting she needed to see liwei urgently, but the assistant blocked her path, informing her that the president had instructed not to be disturbed. She tried to steal a glance inside, but he stepped in front of her, telling her it was inappropriate. With visible reluctance, Suri backed down, saying she would return later. The assistant waited until she disappeared down the hallway before continuing on his way. Inside, Amara remained on liwei's lap, feeding him slowly. His eyes stayed on her, a faint smile playing at the corner of his lips. When she asked what he was smiling about, he told her he wished the photo shoot could last longer so he could see her every day and share lunches like this with her in his office. Her cheeks warmed again as she asked what he would do if people saw them. Liwei's gaze softened as he asked what she thought about publicly announcing their relationship. No more hiding, no more slipping around. She could walk into East Gate Group whenever she wanted, hold his hand outside, kiss him without secrecy, live as a normal couple. Amara frowned slightly, asking why he was suddenly thinking about all of this when his mission was still ongoing. Liwei chuckled, saying it was only a passing thought and that he wouldn't announce anything yet. He added that he did, however, need to attend a press conference to address his relationship status and reduce the rumors constantly circulating. He admitted he wasn't sure what to say and asked if she would mind if he announced himself as a single man and bachelor. Silence settled over her before she answered that she would support whatever would stop the rumors. Liwei laughed quietly, telling her that if he announced he was single, powerful families and ambitious women would chase him relentlessly. He asked if she would be fine seeing other women around him. At the visible jealousy in her expression, he leaned closer, gaze deepening as he whispered that she didn't need to worry. She was his first and last, and no one would ever hold his heart except her. Amara's face burned with warmth. She asked if she could watch the press conference, and he told her she could, but requested a promise that she wouldn't be upset by whatever he said on stage. Amara agreed. A glance at her phone reminded her of the time. She told him she had to leave, but as she moved to stand, he wrapped his arms around her tightly, murmuring that he wanted to hold his wife for a moment. They stayed like that for a quiet, lingering beat, before he lifted a hand and kissed her forehead, releasing her. She gave him one last look before stepping out of the office. As soon as the door closed behind her, Liwei opened a small ring box, staring at it with a mix of resolve and longing. Under his breath, he murmured that he had been waiting for this moment for a long time, and that if claiming her publicly as his woman was what it took to finally capture the mastermind, then he was willing to do exactly that. As Liwei sat there, the office door opened and Suri stepped in. His hand moved instantly, slipping the ring box out of sight before she noticed. Suri informed him that it was time for the press conference and that the media had already gathered. Liwei nodded, telling her he would be there shortly. Her eyes lingered on the lunchbox on his desk, and she remembered the girl in the elevator holding the exact same one. Curiosity tightened her expression as she asked if he had brought lunch, adding that he rarely did something like that. Liwei kept his gaze steady and reminded her that his personal matters were none of her business, and that he had made it clear he would not tolerate such discussions in the workplace. Suri apologized immediately and rushed out, her thoughts twisting as she tried to make sense of everything. Why had the lunchbox ended up here? Why had the girl from the elevator been carrying the same one? A thought struck her sharply. Could the girl be his girlfriend? But if she was, then what about the model who had claimed to be involved with him? Suri shook the thought away. Liwei wouldn't date someone from outside China, not when it could damage his reputation and the company's. Impossible. If he were dating anyone, it would be a Chinese woman from a powerful family, not some unknown girl from elsewhere. With that conclusion, she forced the thought aside and continued walking. Meanwhile, in the conference room, journalists and media personnel filled every corner, cameras lifted and ready, eager to witness an event none of them thought would ever happen. The famously private Liwei was finally addressing the public about his personal life. Anticipation buzzed through the room like electricity. Liwei entered, and every camera swiveled toward him. Before he could take his place, the model rushed forward, desperation filling her eyes. She begged him not to deny the rumors about them, saying she would be destroyed online for lying and bullied endlessly. She pleaded with him to simply confirm their relationship, just for the cameras. She promised she would not bother him afterwards. Liwei didn't spare her a word. He simply looked at her once before walking past. She attempted to reach for him, but his assistant stepped in immediately, pushing her aside. Liwei took his seat at the front. The journalist stood ready, microphones forward, lenses sharpened on him. He looked out at them and stated that he had never liked exposing his private life, and that he lived strictly by that principle. He said that recently, privacy had become nearly impossible, with paparazzi trailing him and countless baseless rumors flooding the internet. He explained that today, he intended to end the speculation once and for all by putting the truth out openly, his relationship status and the false claims surrounding him. At the back of the room, Amara and Momo slipped in silently. They stood together, watching. Liwei's gaze drifted toward them, and the moment he saw Amara, his eyes locked onto hers. He announced that he was, indeed, a taken man. The room erupted in murmurs. He continued, his eyes never leaving Amara, describing how the woman in his life was the most amazing person he had ever met, how she made him happy, how she was the love of his life. He said she saved him, that he could not imagine existing without her. She was his everything, and his heart belonged to her alone, now and always. A small smile touched Amara's lips as she listened, knowing every word was meant for her. One of the journalists asked who the woman was and whether it was the same girl he had been rumored to be dating. The model stood there, eyes pleading desperately for him to choose her. Liwei, still fixed on Amara, stated that the woman was not the girl from the rumors. It was someone entirely different. The model felt the impact of his words hit her like a blow, her heart plunging as tears threatened to spill. The journalists pressed further, asking who this woman was and whether she was someone the public already knew. Liwei said she was not someone they knew, but that he would show them the person today, right now, and that she was in the room. Amara froze, her breath catching. Confusion and fear tightened in her chest as she wondered what he intended to do, what plan he was about to execute. He couldn't possibly announce their relationship publicly, not like this. It was dangerous, too dangerous. People in the room looked around, scanning faces, searching for the mystery woman. Liwei stood from his seat. The small ring box was hidden in his hand, held tightly as he stepped down from the platform. Slowly, deliberately, he began to walk toward the back of the room, toward her. Amara stood rooted in place, her heartbeat thundering as she realized what was happening, what he was about to do. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. And yet he continued forward, step by steady step with every camera in the room turning to follow him.